We live in interesting times.
For the headlines.
A major operation to reach thousands of people stranded in fire-ravaged seaside towns is underway in Australia after deadly bushfires ripped through popular tourist spots and rural areas, leaving at least 8 people dead.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un promised that his country will continue to develop strategic weapons if the U.S. doesn't change its hostile policy.
And thousands of people took to the streets of Hong Kong on Wednesday morning to show that they would keep up pressure on the Beijing-backed government in 2020.
And the world welcomes 2020 with fireworks.
Amalma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world, thank you very much for joining us.
We welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Cepeda.
And now to the news. A major operation to reach thousands of people stranded in fire-ravaged sea towns or seaside towns is underway in Australia on Wednesday after deadly bushfires ripped through popular tourist spots and rural areas, leaving at least 8 people dead. Take a look.
Of a property, our first task was to extinguish that to help prevent fire spread onto.
Now, Navy ships and military aircraft were deployed alongside emergency crews to provide humanitarian relief and assess the damage from the deadliest spate of blazes yet in a months-long bushfire crisis. Now, police said 3 more bodies were discovered on Wednesday, bringing the confirmed death toll since late Monday to 8, including a volunteer firefighter killed when a fire tornado flipped his 10-ton truck. There were mounting fears as well for several others missing after the country's southeast was devastated by out-of-control blazes, which destroyed more than 200 homes and left some small towns in ruins. New South Wales Rural Fire Service Commissioner Shane Fitzsimmons said emergency services faced a real challenge trying to help injured people in isolated areas. Fires were raging across the country, and the Defense Force said it could take days for the military to reach people in some remote areas. Cooler temperatures and easing winds provided a window of opportunity for relief efforts Wednesday, but there were concerns over new fires sparked by lightning in alpine regions. Firefighters were racing to take advantage of the milder weather in the country's southeast to contain dozens of blazes, as authorities warned the fire danger would spike on Saturday as temperatures soar again.
The United States is sending around 750 more troops to the Middle East immediately following an attack by pro-Iranian demonstrators on the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, the Pentagon said Tuesday. More troops from a rapid response unit of the 82nd Airborne Division are prepared to deploy over the next several days, Defense Secretary Mark Esper said in a statement. Thousands of reporters or supporters of Iraqi armed factions close to Iran had massed at the embassy on Tuesday in outrage over U.S. airstrikes that killed 25 pro-Iran fighters at the weekend. They marched easily through checkpoints in the usually high-security green zone to reach the embassy, broke through a security reception area, and scribbled graffiti in support of Tehran. Speaking to reporters just hours after dozens of Iran-backed Iraqi Shiite militiamen and their supporters broke into the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, President Trump on Tuesday night vowed that the situation will not be a Benghazi, a pointed reference to the deadly 2012 embassy attack in Libya on the Obama administration's watch, after officials at the embassy had requested enhanced security for weeks.
Well, I think it's been handled very well. The Marines came in. We had some great warriors come in and do a fantastic job. And they were there instantaneously as soon as we heard. I used the word immediately. They came immediately, and it's in great shape. As you know, this will not be a Benghazi. Benghazi should never have happened. I also want to thank the Iraqi government. They really stepped up. I spoke to the Prime Minister today. I thanked him, but they stepped up very nicely. I don't think that would be a good idea for Iran. It wouldn't last very long. Do I want to? No. I want to have peace. I like peace. And Iran should want peace more than anybody. So I don't see that happening. No, I don't think Iran would want that to happen. It would go very quickly.
Meanwhile, additional U.S. Marines from Kuwait were assigned to the Special Purpose Marine Air Ground Task Force Crisis Response Central Command. In crisis support, as U.S. Embassy was stormed by Iraqi protesters after U.S. strikes on an Iran-backed Shiite militia in Iraq and Syria over the weekend. Apache helicopters deployed from Kuwait could be seen flying over the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad and firing flares to show presence and deter protesters. The U.S. Marines joined soldiers from 1st Battalion, 227th Aviation Regiment, 34th Combat Aviation Brigade as reinforcement in Iraq. U.S. Secretary of Defense Mark Esper said on Monday that F-15 Strike Eagles fighter jets hit 5 targets linked to Kataib Hezbollah, 3 in western Iraq and 2 in eastern Syria. The strikes came after Washington accused Kataib Hezbollah of a rocket attack that killed a U.S. civilian contractor and injured 4 U.S. servicemen and 2 members of the Iraqi security forces near Kirkuk. Angry protesters backing the Shiite militia entered the U.S. Embassy compound in Baghdad, but the U.S. State Department stated there has been no breach. The Special Purpose Marine Air Ground Task Force Crisis Response Central Command was created after an attack in 2012 on a U.S. diplomatic post where 4 Americans were killed in Benghazi, Libya.
Chileans celebrated the New Year and the beginning of the 20s in the capital Santiago's Plaza Italia, the heart of the ongoing protest movement. The unrest did not seem to put a damper on celebrations, with social movements using the occasion to bring out symbols seen regularly during demonstrations. Some clambered onto the statue of Manuel Boquedano, which was lit up by lasers and lights. A firework display also took place with a nearby Torre Telefonica in the background. Authorities have been trying to restore calm in downtown Santiago, which has been roiled by a crisis that initially erupted over metro fare hikes, but quickly escalated into the most severe outbreak of social unrest since the end of the dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet nearly 30 years ago. Furious Chileans have taken to the streets to register their anger over inequality and particularly to vent at the elites that control much of the country's wealth.
Meanwhile, thousands of people took to the streets of Hong Kong on Wednesday morning to show that they would keep up pressure on the Beijing-backed government in 2020. Take a look. Hong Kong has been battered by nearly 7 months of unrest, which was sparked by a proposal to allow extraditions to mainland China, but later morphed into a larger revolt against what many fear is Beijing's tightening control. Demonstrators gathered in Victoria Park to march across Hong Kong's main island through the Causeway Bay district, usually packed with tourists and shoppers, to Central, the commercial heart of the international financial hub. Many carried banners listed their main demands, including fully free elections in the city, an independent inquiry into the police handling of the protests, and amnesty for the nearly 6,500 people arrested during the movement, nearly a third of them under the age of 20. Along with huge peaceful rallies, the semi-autonomous city has also witnessed violent clashes in which the police have fired tear gas and rubber bullets while protesters have lobbed petrol bombs. Activists have accused the police of brutality and rights violations, while city authorities and the central government in Beijing have accused pro-democracy protesters of rioting. China has also alleged that the unrest has been fanned by foreign powers and has bristled at criticism from rights groups and governments of the way the protests have been handled so far. Organizers had received permission from Hong Kong authorities for the New Year's Day March. Hong Kong saw in the new year with an evening of peaceful protests that descended into tear gas choke clashes between hardcore demonstrators and the police overnight.
Chinese President Xi Jinping delivers a New Year's speech saying our hearts have been concerned about the situation in Hong Kong. Watch this.
前几天我出席了澳门回归祖国20周年庆祝活动，我为澳门繁荣稳定感到欣慰。澳门的成功实践表明，一国两制完全行得通、办得到、得人心。近几个月来，香港局势牵动着大家的心。没有和谐稳定的环境，怎会有安居乐业的家园？真诚希望香港好，香港同胞好，香港繁荣稳定，是香港同胞的心愿，也是祖国人民的期盼。
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has declared an end to moratoriums on nuclear and intercontinental ballistic missile tests and threatened a demonstration of a new strategic weapon soon. During the party meeting, Mr. Kim said his country will shift to a shocking actual action that will make the U.S., quote, pay for the pain sustained by our people, the North Korean news agency said. For months, Pyongyang has been demanding the easing of international sanctions imposed over its nuclear and ballistic missile programs, while Washington has insisted it takes more tangible steps towards giving them up. Negotiations between the two sides have been largely deadlocked since the breakup of their Hanoi summit in February, and the North set the U.S. an end-of-year deadline for it to offer fresh concessions on sanctions relief, or it would adopt a new way. Washington was swift to respond, speaking to Fox News and CBS after Mr. Kim's announcement. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said a resumption of nuclear and missile tests would be deeply disappointing.
I was more concerned about it when this administration took office. We were in a place where it was very likely that we would have ended up in a war with the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, North Korea. President Trump has taken an approach where we've tried to develop a diplomatic pathway. We hope that the North Koreans will reconsider, that they'll continue down that pathway. It's important. It's the right solution. We want peace, not confrontation. If Chairman Kim has reneged on the commitments he made to President Trump, that is deeply disappointing. I was there when Chairman Kim made the commitment that said he would not engage in intercontinental ballistic missiles or test firing of their nuclear weapons, testing their nuclear weapon systems. He made those commitments to President Trump in exchange for President Trump agreeing not to conduct large-scale military exercises. We've lived up to our commitments. We continue to hold out hope that he'll live up to his as well.
President Trump, who has met Mr. Kim 3 times, has often cited the North's restraint as a major diplomatic achievement. Speaking with reporters Tuesday night at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida, President Trump said he still had a very good relationship with the North Korean leader.
Benghazi should never have happened. I have a very good relationship with Kim Jong-un. I know he's sending out certain messages about Christmas presents, and I hope his Christmas present is a beautiful vase. That's what I'd like, a vase, as opposed to something else. I don't know. Look, he likes me, I like him, we get along. He's representing his country, I'm representing my country. We have to do what we have to do. But he did sign a contract, he did sign an agreement talking about denuclearization. And that was signed, number one sentence, denuclearization. That was done in Singapore. And I think he's a man of his word, so we're going to find out. But I think he's a man of his word.
In the wake of North Korea's announcement that it is ending moratoriums on nuclear and intercontinental ballistic missile tests, political analyst Professor Andrei Lankov says the North Koreans are very good diplomats and masters of survival.
Well, most likely we are going to see something near future, but you cannot escape an impression that North Korean government is sort of undetermined. Maybe they have not decided what they can do, because they need to do something which will be provocative enough to attract attention, but not too provocative, since the result of excessively provoking actions might be some kind of additional sanctions. What is South Korea for the North Koreans? Above all, it's a source of cash. So right now, North Koreans are going to ignore South Korea and talk straight to Washington, trying to play Chinese, to a lesser extent Russians, against Americans, ignoring South Koreans. And it's a very rational approach. They are very good diplomats. Let's not forget, they know what they are doing. They are masters of survival.
Eagle News will be right back. Thousands of people gathered in Beirut's Martyr Square to celebrate the New Year on Wednesday. Take a look.
الثورة اليوم عم تحتفل برأس السنة من ساحة الشهداء، واليوم الثورة بدها تكرر نحن موجودين بالفرح وبالكره موجودين، فما حدا يجرب انه يلعب مع شباب وشابات الثورة.
Lebanon was swept up in protests over economic stagnation and corruption. The trigger was a raft of new taxes, also targeting WhatsApp calls designed to tackle the country's high public debt. On December 19, former Education Minister and University Professor Hassan Diab was appointed for the role by the President Michel Aoun after being proposed by the Hezbollah movement. The move sparked more demonstrations as protesters doubt his credibility and commitment.
Lebanese activists target banks in the capital Beirut amid a grinding liquidity crunch that has hit Lebanon, where unprecedented protests since October 17 have railed against the political class and a deepening economic crisis. Since September, banks have restricted the amounts of dollars that can be withdrawn or transferred abroad. Here's more.
نحن هون لأنكم عم تستقوا علينا وتستهزئوا فينا وتذلونا كل يوم لأنه عم تشحدونا مصرياتنا، وهيدي أتعابنا وجنا عمرنا مش هبة منكم. نحن هون لأنه الجهات الرقابية والجهات اللي مفروض تحاسب متواطئة معكم بانتهاك الدستور والقانون. نحن هون لأنه ما عاد في عنا ملجأ لا قضائي ولا دستوري يحمينا ويجيب لنا مصرياتنا.
I think at the end of the day, because the central bank controls everything, the banks don't give a shit whether you like it or not. I got your money, and I'll give it to you when I tell you when. And I'll give it to you as I give my son his weekly allowance to buy chocolates. Hunger has hit our streets, and we will go like what happened in Athens, or what happened in Venezuela, or what happened in Buenos Aires. We're bankrupt anyway. So the politicians here, they know they have the law, they know they are corrupted, they do whatever they want. All of a sudden, no, the people have woken up. And now the banking sector is going to have to regroup really quick. And also, who do you think owns all the banks? Come on, the politicians. I can name you bank by bank.
In other news, 9 people died after Indonesia's capital was hit by its deadliest flooding in years, according to authorities, as torrential rains on New Year's Eve left vast swaths of the megalopolis submerged. Take a look. Electricity was switched off in hundreds of waterlogged neighborhoods across Greater Jakarta, home to about 30 million people, with some train lines and one of the city's airports also shut. A 16-year-old was electrocuted by a power line, while 3 more people died of hypothermia, according to Jakarta Disaster Management Agency head Subeho. Among the victims was an elderly couple trapped inside their home in a district where floodwaters reached as high as 13 feet after a river burst its banks. Another victim drowned, while 4 people were killed after the Tuesday evening downpour triggered landslides in the city's outskirts. Authorities said about 13,000 people were evacuated, but that figure did not include residents in Jakarta's satellite cities.
Let's go over to Macau and find out how they celebrated the New Year's Eve there. Here's Kit Wong.
We are now in the Cotai Street, where we can see some famous landmarks in Macau, just like Venetian, Parisian City of Dreams, where thousands of locals and tourists are waiting to see the 2020 New Year's countdown.
As a Portuguese territory until 1999, Macau reflects a mix of cultural influences. Its giant hotels, malls, and luxury resorts on the Cotai Strip, which joins the islands of Taipa and Koloan, have earned it the nickname Las Vegas of Asia. Tourists from all around the world locals and overseas workers gather here on the Cotai Strip to witness the New Year's Eve countdown. With extravagant firework display, pretty projections and live music to welcome the New Year 2020.
Happy New Year, Macau.
Yes.
I'm Macau. Bye-bye.
Bilang isang anak na malayo sa magulang, ang tanging hiling lang po namin, makasama po namin yung mga magulang namin. Hindi lang, at saka mas sumaba pa yung buhay nila. Lahat ng to, ginagawa po namin para sa kanila. Happy New Year to everyone!
Okay. My expectations for 2020 are just, I hope like every political situation in the world gets a bit better and everyone who's poor or anyone who has a bad life can enjoy it a little bit more as I had, because I know we are the lucky ones right now, and I hope everyone can find a little bit of happiness, since I think it's what's missing in the world right now. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Wish ko sa 2020, sana maging malakas pa ako at sana maging maayos pa ang aking hanap buhay dito sa Macau at makatulong pa sa aking pamilya. Yun lang po. Wish ko. Happy New Year po sa lahat.
Wish ko po ngayong 2020, sana po magandang kalusugan sa buong pamilya, sa sarili rin po, maging maayos na kalusugan para patuloy na maitaguyod ang buong sampo.
Sana po mahanap ko na si Forever ko. Happy New Year po sa lahat!
Wish ko po, lalo pa pong tumatag ang paghahanap buhay ko po dito para po pag uwi ko ng Pilipinas, hindi na po ako isang katulong. Mas marami pang benefits per company.
projects at benefits ang...
Pero sa nakikita namin ngayon sa Macau, marami naman na mga establishment. So mas maraming OFW ang makakapagtrabaho dito. Na mas benefit sa atin sa Pilipinas kasi bilang OFW, di ba yung mga remittances pag naipapadala.
Sana more OFWs ang matulungan this 2020. Okay.
Happy New Year po sa lahat. Ang wish po naming lahat dito na OFW po dito sa Macau. Sana susunod na New Year ay makasama naman namin ang aming pamilya sa Pilipinas. And syempre magtagumpay pa sa mga trabaho po namin. Happy New Year po sa inyong lahat.
Happy New Year po!
From the District of Macau, we would like to greet our beloved Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo and his family, and all the brethren all over the world.
Happy New Year po! From Kota Street, Macau, reporting for Eagle News. This is Kip Wong, and I'm always one with 25. Happy New Year! Happy New Year!
Thank you, Kit. Meanwhile, hundreds of people gathered in Yokohama to celebrate the arrival of the new year. Earlier, our EBC correspondent Christine Mendoza was there. Take a look.
I am here at Hakejima Sea Paradise, a theme park in Yokohama City. As we can see, locals and tourists gathered to join the countdown in welcoming the year 2020 with a fireworks display by the bay. I am joined by my family to celebrate the coming new year and to remember the good memories of 2019. From Yokohama City, this is Christine Mendoza for Eagle News International. I am one with 25.
Thank you, Christine. Throughout this decade, Eagle Broadcasting Corporation enjoyed numerous milestones, particularly the establishment of overseas bureaus. One of those formed in the Pacific was Hawaii in 2013, followed by both Micronesia and American Samoa in 2017. Here's now is a snapshot of their contributions to the network.
along with his staff and other public officials.
Here is an update on the ongoing measles outbreak.
The Honolulu Fire Department now states that everything is under control.
As Hawaii's Black Sugar Mill fades into a memory.
Ganito ang itsura sa Waikiki noong kinaumagahan ng January 13.
At present, there are still tens of thousands still missing.
Aid to the poor and those affected by recent calamities in various parts of the world.
Be careful, guys. There's a smoke right there.
If you look below, it used to be our house.
So how has the weather been these past few days in Hawaii?
This is an actual video po from volcano, 10:45 in the morning.
Located in downtown Honolulu, Hawaii, it has recently gained internet attention by posting a sign on its door reading, "Trump supporters not welcome," and calling them Nazis. Thank you. And you were at the protest today. What was the protest like today?
It's pretty energetic.
Almost done, sir. Give me about 5 more seconds.
Has passed since the accident, and as you can see, flowers have already been offered here to pay respect to those who perished.
I was on Ford Island at the USS Battleship Missouri when I heard about the incident. So we heard this alarm go off, an alarm that I've actually not heard before.
Coffee is their ideal cup of joe, anytime, anywhere.
We're gonna head out to a famous lookout here on Molokai called Kalaupapa.
Holo holo means to relax and cruise, getting to spend your quality family time at your favorite outdoors.
Where there's a will, there's a way. Life will find a way. Comic books will find a way to survive. I love it.
You're going to learn so much from this organization and that is going to serve you well in your hometown city.
There was question when the 2.0 version of OA 50 was being suggested, and it was apparent that it was going to come.
Governor David Ige wins a second term in a year that began with an embarrassing false ballistic missile alert. But his administration came back strong in response to several natural disasters in the following months.
From the local congregation of American Samoa, we are one in 25. From Hawaii Pacific, we are one with 25. We are one with 25. We are one with 25.
Meanwhile, let's take a look at the celebrations around the world as the clock struck midnight and countries see out 2019 and welcome in 2020. Take a look.
It's summer, 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 summertime. Ooh, when the night gets cold, be dreaming of your love and every.
We'll be back with more news right after this break. partial new U.S.-China trade agreement will be signed in the middle of next month. U.S. President Donald Trump said Tuesday, announcing that he will also then travel to China for continued talks. President Trump's tweet, sent moments before Wall Street opened for the year's final trading day, set a calendar date for an event that had hung in uncertainty in recent weeks as details remain scant. Washington and Beijing earlier this month announced a Phase 1 trade deal, de-escalating their nearly two-year trade war as Trump reduced or canceled some tariffs while Beijing promised to adopt trade reforms and buy more U.S. farm exports. The text has yet to be made public, pending what U.S. officials say is a largely technical review. U.S. and Chinese officials have said the agreement includes protections for intellectual property, food and farm goods, financial services and foreign exchange, and a provision for dispute resolution. Under the new deal, China has committed to a minimum of $200 billion in increased purchases over the next 2 years from U.S. manufacturers, farmers, energy producers, and service providers, according to U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer.
The China deal will be signed probably on January 15th. We put out a notice today. And I'll be going at some point to Beijing to be with President Xi. We have a great relationship, and we'll be doing something reciprocal. But I think more importantly, we'll be starting negotiations very soon on Phase 2, and I think Phase 2 can be complete.
In other business news, the usually staid Japanese media lambasted the cowardly Carlos Ghosn on Wednesday after the tycoon jumped bail and fled to Lebanon to avoid trial in Japan. Take a look. Running away is a cowardly act that mocks Japan's justice system, said the Yomiuri Shimbun, with Ghosn facing multiple charges of financial misconduct, all of which he denies. By leaving the country, Ghosn has lost the opportunity to prove his innocence and vindicate his honor, the paper added, noting that the court, his defense lawyers, and immigration control officials also bore some blame to the affair or in the affair. The liberal Tokyo Shinbun also said Ghosn's actions had made a mockery of the Japanese justice system. Meanwhile, former Nissan chief Carlos Ghosn's main lawyer said he is dumbfounded by the news of his client's sudden departure from Japan, where he was out on bail ahead of a trial for financial misconduct.
私個人とすると一体どうやってそのご本人に連絡したらいいのかですね、ちょっと見当つかない状態ですね。いやいや、もちろんそれは許されない行為ですよ。その保釈条件に反してるんですから、そういう意味じゃ日本の司法に対するなんて言いますか、裏切りというのか違反行為ですから、それはいけないことなんですけども、じゃあそのいけないことの気持ちが全く理解できないかと、それはまた別問題ですよね。それは普通でもいけないことでも気持ちよく分かるっていうのはいくらでもあるわけですから。
Meanwhile, Mr. Ghosn's neighbor reacted.
مرتين او ثلاثه يمكن شافوا هون بالحي يعني معرفه بسيطه يعني مش معرفه وكان شخص يعني محترم جدا ما في عليه اي يعني شوائب ونحن بنعتقد انه بالنهايه اكيد اذا هو عليه اي تهم اكيد رح يرضخ للقانون.
France's Emmanuel Macron says pension reform will be carried out. He was speaking to the nation on New Year.
Je mesure aussi combien les décisions prises peuvent parfois heurter, susciter des craintes et des oppositions. Faut-il pour autant renoncer à changer notre pays et notre quotidien? Non. Car ce serait abandonner ce que le système a déjà abandonné. Ce serait trahir nos enfants, leurs enfants après eux, qui alors auraient à payer le prix de nos renoncements. C'est pour cela que la réforme des retraites à laquelle je me suis engagé devant vous et qui est portée par le gouvernement sera menée à son terme. Parce qu'il s'agit d'un projet de justice et de progrès social.
Meanwhile, the leader of France's hardline CGT union on Wednesday urged all workers to join the pension strikes that have crippled public transport over the past month, as a showdown with President Emmanuel Macron enters a second month. In his New Year's address that you saw earlier, President Macron vowed not to back down on his plan to replace France's 42 separate pension schemes with a single system that would require people to work longer. The government says the changes are necessary to make the system fairer for all and more sustainable, but unions argue that workers, particularly in the public sector, will lose out. The 28-day strike, which left thousands of travelers stranded over the holidays, is on course to exceed the longest transport strike to date in France, which lasted for 28 days in 1986 and early 1987. President Macron's New Year's address was closely watched for signs that the government's resolve might be weakening, but while calling for a rapid compromise during a new round of negotiations with unions next week, President Macron vowed that the reforms will be carried out.
Russian President Vladimir Putin delivered his traditional New Year's Eve speech in Moscow on Tuesday, addressing the nation and wishing the Russian people all the best for 2020. In his address, Putin underlined the importance of national unity to overcome the challenges that Russia faces in the new decade.
Уважаемые граждане России, дорогие друзья, совсем скоро наступит 2020 год. Мы с вами на пороге уже третьего десятилетия 21 века. Мы живем в бурное, динамичное, противоречивое время. Но мы можем и должны сделать все, чтобы Россия успешно развивалась, чтобы все в нашей жизни менялось только к лучшему.
Palau's pioneering ban on reef-toxic sunscreens took effect Wednesday as the tiny Pacific island nation introduced strict environmental measures that also include one of the world's largest marine sanctuaries. We have to live and respect the environment because the environment is the nest of life, and without it, nobody in Palau can survive. That is according to President Tommy Remengesau. He said this as the new law took effect. Palau, which lies in the Western Pacific about halfway between Australia and Japan, is renowned for its marine life and is regarded as one of the world's best diving destinations. But the government is concerned its popularity is coming at a cost. President Remengesau said there was scientific evidence that the chemicals found in most sunscreens were toxic to corals, even in minute doses.
In NHL action, the Vancouver Canucks earned the 5-4 win against the Vegas Golden Knights at Rogers Arena in a thrilling overtime ending. Eagle News correspondent Anthony Sevilla reports.
The Vancouver Canucks won their second straight home game, defeating the Pittsburgh Penguins 4-1 at Rogers Arena. Pettersson, Besser, Virtanen, and JT Miller all scored for Vancouver, while Jake Gensel scored the lone goal for Pittsburgh. The Penguins ended their four-game winning streak after their loss to the Canucks. They struggled heavily in the first to generate offense. It was the first time since 2002 they were unable to record a shot in an entire period. It also marked only the fifth time in Canucks history that they held an opponent shotless in a period. The Penguins also had trouble staying out of the penalty box early on. 3 Pittsburgh players were penalized back-to-back in the first, which resulted in a 2-0 lead after 20 minutes.
Like I said, it is what it is, and I thought
we got a little bit unlucky there in the first period with some of those calls, and I mean that's a tough situation to be in, taking all those penalties. But you know, we did our best and we tried to battle through it. But you know, if we had a better first period, I think we would have had a better chance. Good shooters, probably for the most part. That's they got threats all over the ice, and when you got so many threats, it's you know, you can't just pay attention to one guy. So obviously that makes it tough to defend for sure.
I think anytime that happens, I think especially early in the game, I think it takes a lot out of you. But I think at the end of the day, I think our team responded well. We just didn't put the puck in the net as much as we could have. We took the penalties tonight, and we haven't before, and I think they cost us tonight, and I think we just got to learn that lesson.
I thought we had obviously a really good first period there, and you know, they made obviously a strong push in the second, but I thought we regrouped and had a really good third period and kind of took everything away from them. So it was a huge 2 points for us tonight, and now we got to get another 2 next game.
Elias Pettersson and JT Miller also continued to shine for Vancouver. Both Miller and Pettersson notched a goal and an assist in the win. Miller shared the similarities between his former team and this young Canucks team, while Pettersson explained the impact that JT Miller had on himself and to the team.
Yeah, I learned a lot, and you know, especially in Tampa. Obviously, that's one of the most elite power plays in the league, and you know, I learned a lot being on there and how they react to teams' penalty kills and how they move it past team players. And I see a lot of similarities on this unit, just a lot younger. And you know, there's you know, a lot of nights we're working on really good and don't get any goals, and it's frustrating. But you know, tonight was a good example in that 5-on-3. You could definitely tell we wanted to score there, and we finally did, and it was taken away, so it kind of sucks. But you know, we're learning as the season goes on. I think that we want to be consistent, work hard, and you know, we're finding a way to get it on both units right now, which is huge.
He has a lot of experience. He saying and teaching me like small stuff, like how to play smarter with the puck and all that. So he's been really good for me to be able to talk with someone to learn. We feel comfortable playing with each other. Brock and JT are skilled guys, so it's easy to play with them, and yeah, we always want to work hard and create a lot.
Pittsburgh looked to bounce back after the holiday break as they continued to wait for All-Star and team captain Sidney Crosby to return from injury. Vancouver will look to keep their momentum heading forward as they continue to fight for the last wildcard spot in the Western Conference. From Rogers Arena in Vancouver, Anthony Sevilla, Eagle News, always one with 25.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you, Anthony. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also check out our boards on Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us.
And Sam, a year has just ended. A new decade beckons. As information is driven faster in our direction, truth begins to matter more in every second we live. Let's make 2020 more interesting, intelligent, and awakened. And that's the news for tonight. Happy New Year, Sam.
Yes, a very blessed and a prosperous New Year to you, Alma, and to all our televiewers.
Yes. Happy New Year po.
Happy New Year po.
And that's the news for tonight. I'm Alma Angeles, and
we're one with 25.